Hey all, what's going on? It is me, Guillotine. I took a little bit of a break. I had the COVID. It was Mardi Gras down here, and I'm happy to be back. I'm feeling much better. Here is a replay that I wanted to share with you. I really wish I would have had the camera rolling while I was playing it, just because it was one of those matches where I constantly felt like I was against the ropes. It should make for an entertaining replay nonetheless. We're on the map Lost Island, and off to the right here in the blue is my opponent, Korean player Manshigi. Down to the bottom right is myself in the red, going for what is pretty much my standard open these days. It's a 1 gas, 1 barracks, quick expand. I'm sending out a worker scout, which is something I'm doing a little bit more often these days. On this map in particular, I like to position my worker here so I can have this lookout tower and see if he's sending a scout. I'll at least know where he is on the map. I wanted to highlight this game because I feel like it shows off kind of the state of the game as it is at the moment. In the most recent update, they made it to where unit level matters a lot more in a fight, and a lot of players are understandably upset about that. It can feel kind of unbalanced at times, especially if you are a new player. Your card levels are very low. If you're doing the same thing as your opponent, you've got the same deck, you have the same build, do everything the exact same, the account with the highest levels is going to win, and that does kind of blow. But I would like to counter that by saying that's a very unlikely scenario, and there are a lot of ways to counter your opponent in this game. And not to turn it into a pissing contest, but back when I first started, late 2019, maybe early 2020, unit levels felt astronomical. It really mattered. And it really sucked at times. But when the servers first reopened to Korean players, they instantly shot up into the top spots and eventually dethroning the top players, all with level 3, 4, 5 cards, because they understood RTS and they understood how to counter everything that you were doing. They were doing run-bys, they were doing multi-pronged dropship attacks, and a lot of players were getting frustrated, but I thought it brought a fresh perspective to the game and a bunch of new strategies, which is ultimately what led me to join a Korean clan and start learning from the best. To get back to the game at hand, you'll notice that my expansion went down just a little bit after a minute. It's usually slightly quicker than that, but on this map in particular, there is enough room for 12 workers mining minerals on your main base rather than the typical 10. So to me, it is more efficient to get that fully saturated before putting down the expansion, so it comes just a tiny bit later when playing this map, or other maps like it. So right now, I'm sending an owl across the map to get eyes on my opponent. Back home, I'm building up to 3 barracks, and then I'll put down my additional 3 gas. Right about now, I'm seeing that I'm up against Goblin Scientist, which is one of my least favorite units to play against, because they're very good against everything that I like to do. Back in the day, I would fill up a few dropships with sneak bombers, try to drop right on top of them and blow them all up, but too many players are using Temptation, too many players are using snipers and Voduns to where they'll just shoot the ships down really fast. It's just not worth the return on investment for me. So when I scout them, I immediately start teching towards the move underground sneak bomber rune. That way my sneak bombers can move while burrowed and try to just get past their bubbles and blow them up from underground. Manshigi is currently ranked higher than me on the ladder, but they also have lower level cards than myself. So this is kind of what I was speaking to and saying that like card levels matter, but they also don't matter, because this deck right here should destroy me, and for a lot of the game it does. I'm delaying my tech a little bit here because I want to try getting my 3rd base up and rolling before investing too much into it. Upon further review though, if Manshigi attacks here, I am dead. Those Goblin Scientists are just going to cast their gravity bubble and hold those sneak bombers back and kill them one by one. There's not going to be anything I can do about it. I'm floating a little bit of money too. I probably could have just went ahead and started it, but for whatever reason, I delayed it. I think I wanted to get past this chrono, and I think I wanted to kill that owl. I didn't want him to be able to scout what I was researching, but I should have taken care of the owl sooner. If I remember correctly, I queued up some Voduns and forgot to cancel some sneak bombers, and was sitting there wondering, like, why is it taking so long for these to pop out? And it was because they were just behind in the production queue. My enemy's unit composition keeps getting worse and worse for me as I'm scouting it. Little witches are very strong versus me because they will spawn a little cookie minion every time one of my unit dies, and my army dies a lot. Also, those orc fighters are going to suck up a lot of sneak bomber damage, and so I've really got to trade efficiently, which is something I usually don't have to worry all that much about. My sneak bomber tech is finishing up. I'm now getting Vodun range. I notice Manshigi takes the middle, and also his owl right here flies straight into my tower, as I know that his army is likely unattended, so I'm going to send my sneak bombers in. He knows it's coming. He tries to evacuate, but it's going to be too late. We are going to get a sick connect right here. Lucky for him, though, he does save 2 witches. Those witches, very, very valuable. They're high gas, but very low mineral, and again, they spawn free units, so being able to save them is huge. That ring right there around his castle means he's also using the recall spell, which in my opinion is broken at the moment, but I kind of have a reputation of thinking everything that I don't do is broken. If you're unfamiliar with the spell, basically you can select any one of your castles. If your units are losing a fight or you're across the map and maybe you're getting countered, you can cast a pretty big ring around your units and recall them back to said castle. And if that's not enough, the units being recalled, while they're being recalled and even a bit of time after, take significantly less damage. I believe level 1 starts at 46% less damage. So players are pretty much just spamming this spell every time that they enter a fight, and only taking, at minimum, half damage. Also recalling on top of their own castle, so say I'm attacking into my opponent's base, he's got a bunch of units standing around that castle, he'll just hit recall on those units, so while they're standing there for what feels like an eternity, they're barely taking any damage. A couple seconds ago, I took a really awful fight in the middle. He decides to push me here, but I do have enough sneak bombers to where I can get past the front line, start blowing some stuff up. Still not the best connect, but I do have a berserker up there who's able to get a few good hits, and right here, he's going to pull away. I'm going to be able to hold this. I've got my 4th up on the left, and I'm going to be looking at taking a 5th. I know that my opponent's got to be macroing pretty well to be able to have rebuilt his army, and this is now, I think, his 3rd push. At this point, I'm getting a little bit nervous that he's already expanded to the top left and ahead of me in the base count. I'm going to go scout it here in a second, but I really want to make sure I don't lose my 3rd. I'm spreading my army out, trying to hit this kind of awkward angle from as many different angles as possible. The sneak bomber micro gets a little bit awkward there. It's really the only downside to using them burrowed is sometimes they'll pop out a little bit too early, or half are burrowed, half aren't. Right here, Manshigi uses that recall, but that's what the spell's for. I'm not upset about that. Get out of my base, I'm going to rebuild, you go home, regroup, and we'll meet again here in a second. Now that the action's calmed down a little bit, I did also want to bring up StormGate. If you haven't heard of StormGate, you've been living under a rock. It is pretty much everyone who is anyone that worked on StarCraft and Warcraft is making a new RTS called StormGate. The sad news in the StarCraft world is that Blizzard kind of pulled all funding from pro StarCraft, and a lot of people are thinking it's the beginning of the end, or not necessarily the beginning of the end, but the final nail in the coffin. That this might be the last year that we have a very serious pro StarCraft 2 scene. I also play StarCraft 2. I don't make StarCraft 2 content because, well, I'm not that great at StarCraft. I'm like a platinum Zerg. I also wasn't able to get the game until last year, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, I do plan on playing StormGate. Just curious if you all would also like StormGate content. I am not going to stop making Acies content. I do absolutely love this game. It was there for a lot of us in a really dark time during COVID lockdown, and I will play this game as long as it is there for me to play. Anyways, let me know in the comments, do you care about StormGate? Will you play StormGate? Do you want to watch me be really bad at StormGate? Doesn't matter. I'm definitely going to play it. I just want to know if you want to watch me play it. Back to the action here. Manshigi is putting pressure on my 3rd yet again, taking out both of those towers. We both have 4ths up. I believe mine is saturated. I believe his is still building, but nonetheless, it looks like here that my 3rd might fall. Manshigi is racking up a massive bank, and I know that if I keep headbutting into this army, I'm going to end up losing a game that I felt like I had a pretty good lead early on. So I'm thinking about backstabbing here. I'm thinking about allowing my 3rd to fall, especially if it means that I can shut down his 4th and put some pressure on his 3rd as well. This poor berserker is going to die a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Those gravity bubbles are just so annoying. I'm not exactly microing him. I'm actually sending units up to the top left kind of as we speak. Meanwhile, in my third, the pressure continues. That Berserker is going to go down as well. I don't think my opponent's really paying attention to what's happening down here at my third. A lot of damage is being put in, but he could be microing those witches down into the mineral line, getting a whole bunch of kills on the workers, thus spawning a whole bunch of minions. Meanwhile, up in the top left, I am taking out his fourth, and I'm going to go up and start building in the very top spot what will be my fifth. Monchigi's fourth is all but dead. He's pulling his units out of my third because he sees that I'm going for a run by in his third. He is going to set the recall to the castle. He's going to use recall on his units right now. They're going to spawn right on top of that castle, and for a period of time, they're going to take a lot less damage. The poison goes down, taking out a good bit of my units. This is a really good defensive spell. As you can see, up until that little animation disappears on top of those units, they are taking significantly less damage. Nice connect from those sneaky boys, taking out a witch and a couple of Voduns. I'm getting my fourth up and going. However, my third is still not mining, but is holding on for dear life. I'm chronoing an army behind this. I need to remax. I just lost a lot of units taking out those workers. My fifth is just about done. I do want to go for a sixth. I'm beginning to get a lot of map control here. However, this is a really nasty army that I'm still going to eventually have to deal with. I'm now sending my units that I had down to save my third. They kind of come in at the final hour, able to clean up that cluster of troops that was there. I'm going to start rebuilding workers and just try to defend it. All while Monchigi is sending some troops down the left side of the map. We'll see which castle he decides to attack. Keeping the action right here just to see what happens with my third. Looking at the mini map, you can see that he's clustering up his units, sending it up into the top left. I haven't gotten that sixth down yet. I don't know if he knows about my fifth, which is right up top. He does turn his units around though, so I'm assuming that means he does not know this is here. He has not scouted this, and that is really good for me. I'm now going to start pushing up. I know that his bases are mining out, and if I can catch these workers and catch before he's able to rebuild workers or transfer workers over to his third, that's going to put me in a really good spot. Regardless of this massive bank that he's built up, he doesn't have really any mineral-only units, so he's going to need gas. Without any scientists around, this is when berserkers are really going to start showing their value. Being able every 3 seconds to do huge AoE damage once their tornado rune is activated. I'm also sending a handful of units up into Monchigi's third, trying to kill as many workers as possible. I know that is the key for me to close this game out, is to kill workers. I can't focus on the fight though. I need to go back home, take a breath, start another macro cycle, remax my army, get my third back up to a healthy state, try to get my sixth up and rolling. My bank is rapidly depleting, so if this next punch is not a knockout punch, this could snowball the other way, even though I'm massively ahead. Timely recall, Monchigi is able to get some units home and save his third from falling. He's going to be able to kill all of those berserkers that were up there, start rebuilding some workers, and stay in this thing just a little bit longer. Scientists are doing what they're supposed to do. They're plugging up some holes, but here come those burrowed sneaky boys, and they are going to take everything out, castle along with it, and deplete that entire army. If you're curious, it takes about 30 sneak bombers of equal level to kill a castle that has full health, which makes for some really funny moments. However, it's a pretty big investment, so if it's not going to work 100%, I would not recommend it. Trust me from experience, it is not the best opener. Hats off to Monchigi here though, fighting till the bitter end, and to tell you the truth, I am actually terrified of this army. Even feeling pretty confident, you know, looking at the replay, it seems pretty handed, but you don't have Fog of War on this replay. I don't know what he's got. And he's got a whole bunch of minerals, a little bit of tweak on this deck. Like if he replaces those orc fighters with orc warriors, I might have been toast here. Anyways, sneak bomber's coming in. He does get the recall in the very last minute, but the healers were left out. I'm going to run up, try to get the healers, but right here I noticed that the witches were recalled to the second base. I want to go up and just check the third, because I know that if he's up there, then that's going to be all that he's got. He has started to rebuild a little bit, and so I'm just going to start killing these guys as quickly as I can. And right about here, my opponent calls GG, and that it was a very good game. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know about StormGate content. Hopefully I'll have another video out soon, and I will holler at you all next time.